What are you doing? Good, good. We're going to go ahead and get started with our event, Soluciones con Libre. Primeramente, gracias por estar aquí con nosotros. Mi nombre es David Velázquez, yo soy el director ejecutivo de la iniciativa Libre. Y esperamos que, que ustedes tengan un buen tiempo hablando con nosotros de soluciones. So, I'm saying it in Spanish and English because we have other people that are in Florida, that are in Colorado, that are in different places around the country, North Carolina. And my name is David Velázquez. I'm the executive director of the Libra initiative. And tonight we're going to talk about solutions. Soluciones con Libre is a national event that is happening all over the country. So tonight, with all the people that are here in this room, we're being joined by hundreds of people across the country. And the goal for tonight is really to talk about solutions. What are the solutions to the current problems that we have? And tonight we're going to focus on inflation. And we're joined by a very good friend of mine and the president of the Libra initiative, Daniel Garza. We're going to get started in just a minute. But I did want to give you guys just a couple of details that I need you to pay attention to. So on your table, you received a packet. In that packet, there's some detailed information about inflation. We want you to take a look at that. There's more policy details there and some information there for you as well. There's also inside of that packet, which is very important, a QR code at the very end. That QR code leads us, if you just hang your camera right over it, and it'll take you straight to our action page. This is where you can take action, and then also you can ask questions. The really cool thing about this event is that you can ask questions live right now. And we have in the back of the room our policy director, Kevin Hernandez, who's answering them live. So what we want to do is have those questions coming in. We have questions coming in from all over the country. This is going to be a great conversation, but the goal here tonight is to talk about inflation. How many of you guys are feeling it right now in your pockets with inflation? I mean, paying $88 to fill up your gas tank, paying what, $8 for a gallon of milk, right? It's getting crazy. So we're going to talk about that tonight. We asked you guys to join. What we're going to do tonight, we're going to have basically a conversation up here. Then we're going to break out into a session in our tables, and we're going to ask you all what you think the solutions should be, what it is that we can do together to change laws, right, and to see what we can do to change the subject. So with me tonight is Daniel Garza. He's the president and the founder of the Libra initiative and a good friend of mine, and we're just going to have a conversation, and hopefully you guys are asking questions, and we're talking. We're going to have a Q&A at the very end, okay? So anyway, Daniel.
David?
How are you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine. A pleasure to be back in Las Vegas. It's one of my favorite states to come and visit. It's got wonderful people. And like you said, we're looking forward to having just a conversation. No Washington speak, no political talk, just a one-on-one conversation about really at the very basic, what's going on, what can we do about it, and why isn't Washington fixing it?
That's right. And Daniel, the current state of affairs is just all over the place. Every time you look on the news, there's blame being put on one person or the other person. What is actually the current state of affairs right now when it comes to inflation?
Yeah, so there's no question now that we are suffering through a bout of severe inflation. It's not hyperinflation yet, thank God. And obviously, the government has done a lot to induce this kind of inflation. And there's a lot of people who are suffering at the gas pump. Folks, at the grocery store. I think at the gas pump and at the grocery store. And then, of course, just in general, there's a study that showed that people are paying almost $5,000 more than previous year in costs. Basic costs, to a daily living. Look, maybe there's some folks that can afford $5,000, from one year to the next, but most of Americans, that causes families to put aside vacations, to put aside, any kind of luxury items, to put aside anything that they wanted, some maybe, big ticket items that they wanted to buy for their kids, activities that they wanted to do. And obviously, it's also causing a lot of folks to not do those things that they were, very used to doing. There's this conversation I had with a kid in South Texas, and Ronaldo is his name. He's a child with a single mom, David, And every Friday they had carne asada. You know, he works at a grocery store. And you know, David was working as a bag boy to help, you know, make ends meet. And because of the cost of meat, they've had to put off carne asada on Fridays. This is, you know, maybe simple stuff to a lot of people, but that it is causing a lot of pain and a lot of hurt.
Absolutely, and when you get down to it, it's people's lives. It's everyday life, right? And we've been doing these events across the country called The True Cost, right? And we're going to gas stations and talking to people about inflation. Also grocery stores. Some of you guys went to that event recently. Thank you for being there. But it's affecting people in a real way, and it's a big problem that we have to put our heads together and fix for sure. So how does a free market keep prices down, Daniel?
So let's talk about in very simple terms. How is it that, you know, we were able to be, you know, doing okay with a 2% inflation per year for so long, and then all of a sudden it spikes up to like 8 to 9 to 10% on average. On some things it's doubled. The cost of gas has doubled. Some groceries have doubled, like meats. But on average, they're saying it's 9%. I almost don't believe it. I think it's a lot more. But point is, what happened? We were at 2% for the longest time, the stasis, they call it. And then, boom, the spike. The free market, just so you know, does an incredible job of actually keeping, if it's truly free, a free market, of keeping prices stable. Because what happens is that as individuals, as people who are out there looking at what need there is, what people are asking for, entrepreneurs, business owners are pretty good at creating products and services to meet demand. And so por ejemplo, si queremos más tortillas, pues van a generar más tortillas, ¿verdad? O frijoles, o carne, o lo que sea, right? The thing is, whatever the product is, and all of a sudden people are coming to the store and asking for it more, and it's leaving the shelves quicker, well, the businessman is going to produce more to meet demand. What happens sometimes is that there is this thing called the invisible hand, spontaneous order. I don't want to get too technical on this stuff, but there's a man a long time ago, about 300 years ago, Adam Smith, who wrote a book he wrote about the free market system, and he talked about what he said was this. In order for David, for example, to make a profit in his business, he has to make a product or a service that makes your life better. If I want to make a profit as a business owner in the free market system, I need to produce or provide a service that makes your life better, that makes you want to come to my store and buy what I have. If you don't want my product, I'm gonna close my business doors, right? So I'm always looking for ways to give you a smile, to make sure that I give you options, and to make sure that I give you a good price. What happens when the government starts to impose too many regulations, too many taxes, employer mandates, is that I'm having trouble now giving you a good price, because now I have to comply with what the government is asking me to do. And my cost of doing business has gone up, and I have to pass that cost up on to you. And sometimes I'll even shut my doors because I can't afford it. I can't afford doubling the minimum wage to my employees, because there goes my profit margin. So I close my doors. Now, imagine that happening across the country a million times over. Well, then, of course, they're not generating services. Business owners are not generating products to meet demand. So there's less product. When there's less product, but the demand is the same, well, then you have a lot of people looking for the same product that they're running out of, and that's why prices go up. And that is what's happening right now in the free market system.
So wait a minute, Daniel. What you're saying is that greed does not cause inflation.
That's exactly right. Let me tell you something about the free market system. It works on incentives. Incentives is the motivation for a person to open up a business. Let's be honest here, is that there's profit in it. If they knew for a fact that there was going to be no profit in opening up a business, Well, why am I opening up a business if I can't make any profit off of it? I'm going to lose everything I have, and I can't feed my family because I've poured all my money and savings into this business that isn't going to provide a product or a service that people want, right? So what happens, David, is that when other people start closing their door, or when government begins to impose itself way too much and the cost of business goes up, I either have to increase my prices, I need to fire people, I need to close my doors, or I can't expand or buy new equipment or make my business better so that more people can come. See, that's the thing. What kind of incentives is government creating in the businesses of all of you folks? Is it incentivizing you to keep your doors open? Are you being allowed to make a profit? That's not greed. That's just plain old the free market system, what they call the invisible hand operating in a way where I need to keep my doors open to provide a product or a service at a good price. You're not letting me do that. So when we say, David, the limited government, unlimited opportunities, it's when Thomas Jefferson said, government that governs least governs best. He said that because you cannot impose too much control, too many mandates, too many statutes onto business owners, because then, of course, they pass on those costs to you.
That's right. And we know already that the Hispanic community is the biggest creator of small businesses, right, in the country. And it's been that way now for a few decades. And so it's not the business owner that's inflating prices.
But entre parentheses, let me talk a little bit about why is it that Latinos and Latinas are opening up businesses at twice the rate as the rest of America. One, of course, we're very entrepreneurial. We come here to achieve the American dream. Number two is because, well, we've been on the outside looking in for a long time. In other words, other folks had businesses. We didn't. We were just consumers. We worked in the fields. We worked, my parents came as farm workers, landscaping, working on roofs, dairy, cattle. Of course, some of us are doctors, lawyers, and whatever. But a lot of us have moved on and up in America. And because we've been generating wealth and passing it on to our children, and our children are getting a good education, they now have the wherewithal, the education to open up businesses. And it's happening. Latinos are opening up businesses. And this is a good thing. They're opening up businesses because there's demand for their products and services and because they're making profit. When that stops, everything goes down.
And Daniel, a question that I get a lot is how does government spike inflation, right? Like how? Tell us about that. How does that work?
So this is a very fundamental question. Why is it that we are saying that it's not corporate greed, it's not Putin or other examples that the president has given as to why inflation is happening? Inflation, again, happens because productivity goes down. So let's talk about that. When we talk about productivity is the generation of products and services. That's what we mean. El Producto Neto Bruto, the GDP, gross domestic product, is productivity. How many products and services are available to the 350, 70 million Americans at any given time? Is it going up? Productivity retracting? Is it going down? Government causes incentives for productivity to go up, and it causes incentives for it to go down. People will either shut their businesses or they will open up new businesses. They will either fire employees or they'll hire new employees based on policy. And what do I mean by that? Let's get to it. Let's get down to it. So the first thing, for example, that President Biden wanted to make clear to everybody in America is that he wanted to unleash a new era of green energy. And he was going to basically start a war on oil. So he shut down the Keystone Pipeline that was being created that was going to produce more energy resources for the country. He shut down or he stopped all the lease. There was leases, but he stopped the enabling permits to produce new oil off of the outer continental shelf and on the public lands. I don't know if you guys knew this, but 1/3 of America's land, 1/3 of the American territory belongs to the U.S. government. Like 90% of Nevada belongs to the U.S. government. I think you guys knew that. 75% of Alaska belongs to the U.S. government. On these vast reserves of land, there is energy. There is oil. So the president said, no more of this. We want to start transitioning to green energy, and I'm basically going to compel the American economy to move towards electric cars, electric vehicles, biomass, wind energy, or whatever. So there was a war on energy. Here's the problem. El país con energía es un país con futuro. A country with energy is a country with a future. You need energy, and you need cheap and reliable oil right now, because that is the cheapest, most reliable way that we can run our companies, our industries, our service sectors, heat our homes, gas up our cars. So you're telling me that at one fell swoop, you're trying to make like a transition from one day to the next away from oil to green energy? Well, that has caused a disruption, a market disruption. It has distorted the price of everything because product has gone down while demand has stayed the same. You know what that means? There's more people chasing less oil. That means they're willing to pay more for it. And gas companies have to, of course, now increase the price because they have less of it to sell. So, of course, that's why you see the spike in oil. Now, of course, the president is like, let's start, forcing these greedy companies to produce more oil. Right. You're the one who stopped them. You're the one who imposed the restrictions. You're the one who shut down the pipeline. So it's kind of disingenuous of him to now say it's because of the greed of these corporations. All these corporations are doing is providing you and I a product and a service to make our lives better that we need right now, cheap and reliable oil. So anyways, it's a failed strategy. That's one. Yeah. Another one is what they call quantitative easing. They're printing money left and right. They're giving $40 billion to Ukraine, ¿verdad? They're of course, financing procurements and contracts and entitlement programs and more programs for more and more people. They are spending left and right. So in printing this money, they also are increasing the amount of dollars that are out there in the economy. They are increasing the money supply. That's quantitative easing, basically. And in quantitative easing, when they do this, when they print more money, it devalues the dollar. That's what happened in Venezuela.
Right.
They just started printing more and more money to pay for more and more things, the government, right? Because they made so many promises that they wanted to keep, and they started subsidizing people to not work. And so they started paying rental incomes, college education, all kinds of things. Well, you cheapen the money because now there's more dollars chasing fewer goods, which of course devalues the dollar.
That's right.
Another thing that I would say, David, I'm going to try to make my answers a little bit briefer.
No, you're fine.
Employer mandates. I think it's a great intention to say, I want corporations to give 4 months of maternity leave. I want them to double the minimum wage. I want them this, right? I want higher paying wages for everybody. Well, that's terrific, but you don't have to pay it. The employer does. Right. And here's what happens. When you double the cost to hire our young kids who are barely entering the job market. I don't know if you knew this, but 5% of Americans make the minimum wage. 5% of the 375 million. Well, of the working folks. Of those 5%, like almost the vast majority of them work in like McDonald's or in entry-level jobs is what they call, where they cut their teeth with their first job and then they move on and up because they create value for the employer and for others, and then of course they prove themselves and then they're promoted and make more money. The problem when a politician comes and tells employers in one state, you will now go from $7 an hour to $15 an hour, is that you have now wiped out the profit margin of mom and pop. And you have forced employers to reduce their employees to either part-time or actually have to terminate them. They can't now expand their store, improve their store, or buy new equipment. or they will close their store. And here's the thing that happens. Who are the folks that are fired first or are part-time first? Latinos.
That's right.
Blacks.
Yeah.
Who are the folks who close their businesses first? Latinos. Blacks. Who are the folks who can't hire now these young kids? And who are those young kids? Latinos. They're hurting us, is what they're doing, by imposing these rules and these mandates that make them feel good, that earn them votes because I'm so awesome that I doubled your minimum wage, but you got a bunch of the labor force fired or part-time or terminated, or you closed the mom and pop store in the local corner. So, David, there are things that government does that when they impose their will and they meddle, they start to distort prices. They start to usurp the role of the market.
Right, and even in the smallest ways, it has the biggest impact and the biggest ripple effect. So, Daniel, ¿qué es lo que nosotros podemos hacer para cambiar esto de lo que está pasando?
Yeah. So, the LIBRE initiative, you talked about it. We have started a campaign. It's called the True Cost of Washington. And when we talk about the true cost of Washington, it is Washington politicians that are to blame for inflation. It is nobody else. It is precisely the policies that of spending, of printing, of imposing their will, the war on energy, on employer mandates, just one thing after another that are actually reducing productivity, that are causing businesses to shut down.
Correct.
We need to raise our voices and say, ya basta, ya estuvo suave. Okay. We need to now turn this around because we need to bring prices down. And how do you bring prices down? Productivity has to go up. People need to get back to work. Stop paying people not to work. Stop subsidizing non-work. We literally, during the quarantine, paid people not to work. Right. And we've continued a lot of these programs still. Yeah. And we do it through welfare. We do it through a bunch of programs. Sure. They're now talking about forgiving the debt of a bunch of rich people who went to college, got college loans, and now us, the poor people, have to pay the rich people's college loans. Right. Because they're going to be forgiven by a president who wants their vote. He's buying votes is what he's doing, but at the same time, he's wrecking our economy. We need to raise our voice and call this out. The people who are getting hurt the most are the working class. We're the ones who are paying for all of this. We're paying for it in more higher prices. We're paying for it in what we can't give our children because the wealthy, of course, are getting more wealthy. But here's the thing. It's because of Washington policy. It's not corporate greed. See, again, I'll remind you, if you do not give us a product or a service that I want, your business is going to go down. The reason that Bill Gates is a rich man is because he provided software that we wanted to run our computers. The reason Steve Jobs was rich was because he created the computers for that software. The reason that Phil Knight is such a rich man is because he gave us Nikes and cool tracksuits, whatever. Right? The point is these folks are wealthy because they gave us products and services that we wanted and we awarded them with our money. But they also created millions and millions of jobs, high-paying jobs. Energy does that, by the way. Right. Latinos, by the way, work in some of the highest-paying energy jobs in Texas, for example, where I'm from. 400,000 people are tied to the energy sector. So when you shut down energy, you're shutting down Latino jobs is what you're doing. So we need to raise our voice, and through the platform of the True Cost of Washington, you can join us. You can be part of this platform, and we were just there. Our LIBRE team was meeting with the senators up on the Hill, congressmen up on the Hill. That we need to reverse this. We need to stop the printing. We need to stop the spending. We need to stop the taxation and the regulations and the employer mandates. We need to get back to productivity.
That's right, and I think you all are a big part of that, right? What is it said? Famous words, we the people, right? You the people, we the people can make a difference, right?
El que tiene pueblo,
tiene poder. Tiene poder, exactamente. And if you are not involved in speaking with your congressmen and speaking with legislators about these laws that affect you in your everyday life, you have to get up and speak about that. And through the LIBRE initiative for 11 years, right? We've been going now for 11 years. We have been trying to provide an opportunity to give you a voice to do that. And you can make a difference. Don't ever let anybody tell you that you can't change things.
By the way, if I could add to that.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is a really important point. Now, I'm not saying this out of politics. I'm saying this because I love scaring the hell out of politicians. If they don't listen to us, if they will not listen to, when we go and advocate, when we go and petition, which is our constitutional right to do so, our elected leaders, then we'll vote them out.
That's right.
What happened in South Texas with Myra Flores, yes, a part of the opposition party was elected by South Texans in a district where Democrats had held control for 150 years. Now, whether you're a Republican or not, I don't care. The point is this. That has scared the hell out of this current administration, because now Latinos are rising up and they are saying, well, if you won't listen to us and you won't change the laws and stop imposing your will, we'll vote you out.
That's right. That's right. And we have to be involved. We have to be involved. Our voices have to be heard, and you have an opportunity to do that. And we're going to give you some more information about that in a minute. But Daniel, is there a piece of legislation right now that people can get behind or shoot down, or something that's happening out there? What can we do?
So sadly, there is not. There is no, unfortunately, the people who are trying to stop the really bad parts of law don't have the power to do so, because the ruling party, the Democrats, control the House, the Senate, and the White House. What that means is that they are the folks who kind of get to decide the agenda. And their agenda is a war on energy, is to continue the quantitative easing, the printing of money, to continue the spending. In fact, they want to inflate the spending to record levels. I think it was a $6 trillion bill.
That's right.
The Build Back Better plan. It's actually the Create More Inflation plan is what it is. $6 trillion. $3 trillion, I think, is what comes into the Treasury every year. That would have doubled what comes in on revenues. And of course, would spike inflation, because again, you're flooding the economy with more dollars, with more money. Fewer goods, because you are actually restricting productivity. And in reducing productivity and more money, well, again, you have more dollars chasing lesser goods, which is going to increase the price of everything, like is happening now. So right now we're suffering through really bad inflation.
Yeah.
This would be hyperinflation if you would have got the $6 trillion bill through.
That's correct. That's correct. So Daniel, so we can get up, we can raise our voices, we can talk to legislators, we can put pressure on people, and I mean nosotros, ¿verdad? La comunidad, ¿verdad? We can do this. But something we were talking about that's very interesting is a blocking coalition. What is that? Talk to me about that.
Good question. So let's talk about what we have going on, the dynamics that's happening in Washington, D.C. right now. This administration, and I say it as a point of policy, they wanted to pass some really bad legislation that was really going to spike inflation to even higher levels. But we had what they call a blocking coalition. There's enough Republicans, and God bless Joe Manchin from West Virginia and a Sinema from Arizona, who are Democrat senators, who joined the Republicans to stop the legislation that was trying to be passed by the Biden administration that would have been a disaster, would have absolutely fueled the inflation even more. It would have given money to the politically connected. Ustedes saben lo que es amiguismo, ¿verdad? The cronyism. That's where the money goes. It goes to the political contributors, the folks who supported him during the campaign. That's where the $6 trillion would have gone also to nonprofit organizations to provide services. And then they come back around during election time and, hey, didn't we cover your transportation? Well, then they vote for our guy. They're buying votes with their money, folks. That's what they're doing. It's a bit corruptive, I'm even going to say. But here's the point. The blocking coalition was... Let me talk to you a little bit about the legislative process, if I have time.
Yeah, I'm
going to try to be
time.
quick.
Yeah.
It's kind of complicated. To pass legislation, spending bills in Congress, it has to be passed by 50%, a simple majority in the House, and a supermajority in the Senate, because it works under a filibuster process. The filibuster says that 60 senators have to approve instead of 50 plus 1. Because there's 100 senators in the Senate, right? So a bill has to pass the Senate and a bill has to pass the House. There's 435 congressmen. So you need a simple majority in the House of Representatives to pass a bill, and then the Senate passes a bill with 60%. Those two bills have to come together and get reconciled. In other words, there's a difference between this bill and whatever difference between this bill, they have to come together and be one bill. And then they go back to the Senate and then back to the House again to vote and ratify the reconciled bill before it goes to the president where he signs it. If the president vetoes, then it goes back and it needs a supermajority from both the Senate and the House. Okay, so right now, they don't have the votes to pass the really bad stuff because we have enough senators to block those bills. They've all been passing in the House. How many of you have heard, well, they passed an immigration bill again in the House, but then nothing happens? Well, that's because the Senate doesn't pass it with a supermajority. The Democrats want to undo the filibuster and make it just a 50% simple majority to pass bills. But Manchin and Sinema are not allowing it to happen. They need 60% of the votes to make that happen. So that's a blocking coalition. There's been some really bad stuff that has passed, but it would have been even worse had we not had a blocking coalition that has stopped the really bad stuff from passing.
Right, Daniel, and you've known my background for a long time. I come from a pastoral background, so I know nothing. I knew nothing about this like 11 years ago, right? But I got interested because I saw how legislation was affecting my community and the people that were a part of my church, right? And I wanted to make a difference. And I want to encourage you to get involved. Like learn how our government functions, because that's how you learn how to work that system so that we can pass good legislation, right? And we can get past some of these things, right? There are good legislators. There are good laws that are put out there sometimes that don't even move forward because they know that it won't.
Well, and the best part about it is that we have power. Latinos in Nevada have power. You have power because you have numbers.
That's right.
And in those numbers, you need to flex that power. Don't be shy. Don't be bashful. Raise your voice. Let your politicians know you either do this for us or you're going to pay the consequences come election time. That's the only way they listen. That's what happened in South Texas. And we've made some national news there. And we're going to continue that. We have to show power, the power that we have. We just haven't flexed it for some reason. We've been really bashful about taking ownership of America. Let's own America. Let's own the political process. And let's put our foot down.
That's correct. And I'm telling you that we can make such a difference if we just get involved. I mean, this country is our country, right? I know my grandfather came here from Puerto Rico, my great-grandfather, years ago, right? And he always talked to me about the American dream and served in the military and all those things. But sometimes we find, right, that our community does not get involved. We just don't. And I don't know if we feel like we can't and that we shouldn't. And somehow everything is perfect. No, when you came here, when your families came here, you came here for the American dream, and we're a part of that dream. So we want to encourage you to do that. And tonight's event is geared towards that. So we're going to break in a couple minutes. We're going to break out into groups, and we're going to have these conversations at the table. And I want to encourage you to have a real conversation about solutions. Soluciones que sí nos afectan a nosotros, a nuestro país, ¿verdad? So I want to thank Daniel. Daniel's going to come back in a minute. We're going to break out into our sessions. I'm going to talk a little bit what that means and how we're getting involved in it. But this is a conversation that's really important, one that we have to be having all the time. And hey, we want to lead that conversation, and we're good with that at the Libra Initiative. So go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah. And right before you break into your groups, let me just say one more thing that can maybe give context, to the group talk. You hear the president say that we are doing everything we possibly can to bring down inflation. I am focused on bringing down inflation. I have my best teams and here's the problem. What they are proposing actually fuels even more inflation because they're more of the same thing. The continuation of the war on energy, imposing employer mandates, price controls, the spending, the printing. And let me just say something about price controls. When you try to control the price of anything, let's just say, en Monterrey esto pasó. My parents are from Monterrey, Nuevo León. Controlaron el precio de la tortilla. Literally, the government said you cannot sell tortillas at more than this price. So what happened was the people who were making tortillas were not making any more profit. So they started making less, and they shut down some of them.
Right.
And so entonces there was a scarcity of tortillas. Where can we buy tortillas? Nobody's making them anymore because they weren't making profit. So people started selling them in the black market. Believe it or not,
Of course.
El Mercado Negro, I'll pay you more for those tortillas, the ones that were left. Okay, well, instead of giving me $1 and you giving me $3, I'd rather sell to this guy bajo la mesa. And so price controls do not work. Don't fall for that. Continued war on energy does not work. Don't fall for that. More printing of money and flooding the economy with more dollars does not work. All it does is devalue the dollar. So in your discussions, these are not solutions.
That's right. That's absolutely correct.
Right.
So listen, what we're going to do now is that, and for all of you who are on TV right now, or on Zoom, excuse me, watching us back in Orlando and in Colorado and North Carolina, we're going to break out into groups. We're going to hopefully get as many people as we can. So Kennedy, do you want to break people that are in smaller groups into other tables so we have a more opportunity to? Okay. You're good? Okay, good. So the opportunity here tonight is for us to have a conversations about solutions. Soluciones con Libre. Es una conversación que nosotros vamos a tener juntos de todo lo que nosotros estamos hablando ahora, pero queremos oír y escuchar lo que ustedes quieren decir, right? So this is a partnership. Right? We're an organization that creates partnerships, and you are our partners in this. So we want to have a conversation. We're going to have somebody lead the conversation, but we want you to have this conversation, and we're going to talk about some solutions. What are some things that you see to everyday problems, like tortillas that we can't buy, or that we're buying from Daniel for $10 rather than $1, right? Neither do I. I don't make anything good. But this is the type of conversation we want to have. We're going to break out for a few minutes. We're going to have these conversations. We're going to come back together, and then we're going to make sure that we make our voices heard. So we're going to break out for a few minutes. Volunteers, staff, if you guys could join some of the discussions, that would be great. Thank you for your patience. We appreciate it. It's going to be a good conversation.
She grew up in an Indiana town, had a good-looking mama who never was around, but she grew up tall and she grew up right with them Indiana boys on an Indiana night. But she moved down here at the age of 18. She blew the boys away, it was more than they'd seen. I was introduced and we both started grooving. We said a figure, baby, but I got to keep moving on. Keep moving on. Last dance with Mary Jane. One more time to kill the pain. I feel summer creeping in and I'm tired of this town again. Well, I don't know, but I've been told you never slow down, you never grow old. I'm tired of screwing up, I'm tired of going down, I'm tired of myself, I'm tired of this town. Oh my, oh hell yes. Honey, put on that party dress. Buy me a drink, sing me a song. Take me as I come, cause I can't stay long. Last dance with Mary Jane. One more time to kill the pain. I feel summer creeping in and I'm tired of this town again. standing in her underwear, looking down from a hotel room. And nightfall will be coming soon. Oh my, oh hell yes. You got to put on that party dress. It was too cold to cry when I woke up alone. I hit my last number, I walked to the road. Last dance with Mary Jane. One more time to kill the pain. I feel summer creeping in and I'm tired of this town again. Just as I thought it was going alright, I found out I'm wrong when I thought I was right. It's always the same, it's just a shame, that's all. I could say day and you'd say night. Tell me it's black when I know that it's white. Always the same, it's just a shame, and that's all. summer, you can see it fading fast. So you grab a piece of something that you think is gonna last. Well, you wouldn't even know a diamond if you held it in your hand. The things you think are precious, I can't understand. Are you reeling in the years, stowing away the time? Are you gathering up the tears? Have you had enough of mine? Are you reeling in the years, stowing away the time? Are you gathering up the tears? Have you had enough of mine? You've been telling me you're a genius since you were 17. In all the time I've known you, I still don't know what you mean. The weekend at the college didn't turn out like you planned. The things that pass for knowledge I can't understand. Are you reeling in the years, stowing away the time? Are you gathering up the tears? Have you had enough of mine? Are you reeling in the years?
All right, just quick announcement, guys. The food is not quite ready yet, so if we could still just come back and not get so crowded behind there, because they're still gonna bring some stuff up. We're gonna kind of do it in order once we start the Q&A. So if we could please just kind of hold off from going back there for right now, I would truly appreciate it. Thank you. En español, todavía están trayendo comida, todavía no está todavía lista. Por favor, todavía no vayan por la comida. Ahorita vamos a terminar el programa y se les va a anunciar cuándo podemos ir. Gracias.
I spent a lot of money and I spent a lot of time. The trip we made to Hollywood is etched upon my mind. After all the things we've done and seen, you find another man. The things you think are useless, I can't understand. Are you reeling in the years, stowing away the time? Are you gathering up the tears? Have you had enough of mine? Are you reeling in the years, stowing away the time? Are you gathering up the tears? Have you had enough of mine?
Always dancing down the street with his wavy blue eyes. Every new boy that you meet doesn't know the real surprise. Here she comes again when she's dancing beneath the starry sky. Oh, she'll make you feel. Here she comes again when she's dancing beneath the starry sky. I kinda like the way she did.
Hello, everyone. We're going to get started. One more minute. Close down your conversation. One more minute, and we'll go into the Q&A. Fifteen seconds. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for participating. How many of you guys like this sort of session? Everybody good? Yeah? Yeah? One more hour? One more hour. Okay. All right. All right. Well, I'll tell you that our table, Daniel, we solved it all. Right? We solved all the problems for sure. These are some things we talked about. Minimizing and finding ways out of government assistance. That there are people, we just need to see if we can get people incentivized to work, incentivized to be a part of the solutions. We talked about daycare solutions, right? And the free market. How does the free market get involved in daycare solutions so that people can actually come to work and work, right? Which is great. We also talked about raising our voices. That's my favorite conversation, right? Is raising our voices. So literally just now, you guys got to raise your voices. You got to have a conversation, a real conversation with your own community about solutions to these problems, right? America has always found solutions, always.
You know, what's interesting about, you talk about the dependency on government and trying to reduce that. There's a great line that goes, it's not about the wasted money, it's about the wasted lives. The folks who are able-bodied and get dependent on government, it's kind of a shame because they have so much to offer society to be productive and to bring their vast capacities to market, but they're caught in this sort of mediocrity is what it is. Right. Look, I'll say it. Welfare should be there for folks who are too old, who are dependent, folks who are disabled, or at least where they can't work, enough to where they can't work, and kids. I don't care what the reason is or what the excuse is, we will take care of our children. Yeah. But able-bodied folks, they should be productive members of society.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so, right now we're going to go into a Q&A session with Daniel Garza. And if you guys look in the second page of your packets, there's a nice little write-up here. And there's a person who actually wrote this up. And it's because he's brilliant. And I mean, he is. And his name is Kevin Hernandez. He's our policy director. And he's coming up here. And he's going to be a part of this Q&A session. If you all have any more questions, though, throughout this whole time, and I'm sorry if I'm speaking, so I'm going to try to speak loud and into the mic. But at the back of this packet, there's a QR code that leads you to the Action Center and also to ask questions. So if you have done that and asked any questions, Kevin has actually been answering them tonight. Please welcome him to the stage. We're getting the Q&A portion. Please ask questions. Those of you online, ask those questions through Zoom and also through the QR code as well.
Awesome. So we'll kind of take it away. We got a lot of questions online. We answered a lot of them, but I think it'd also be helpful to kind of have the dialogue as we close out the discussion tonight. Test. to kind of close out the discussion tonight. And then also, I think if anyone has any questions here, I think we might have a little bit of time also to maybe answer some of those questions, or not even just questions, but dialogue, right? Like if there are certain things that you heard during the course of tonight's event that you want to maybe mention or talk about a story that you've experienced or something that you've seen in general, let us know. I know the last time we did an event like this, it turned out into a really good conversation that we had at the field office with Eddie and the team over there. So I guess one of the questions that we got, Daniel, online was, how does printing of money and government spending affect inflation?
Yeah, and I had sort of touched on this a little bit ago when we talk about this expansionary policy of the amount of money that is out in society, right? When you flood the market with too many dollars, this is government doing the quantitative easing where they buy securities from bank and give them money. Securities, when you buy treasury bills and the government is going to pay you so much interest at the end of 25 years or 50 years, well, the Fed will buy those back and of course will buy them with cash. And that's how we get more money in the banks. More people now are borrowing money. They're building, they're investing. That's the presumption, right? That they're out there actually generating money. Here's the problem, though. Imagine, let's say this platform right here is all the products and services in America, the GDP of America. This platform. What government basically does is take a bucket, like let's just say it's a lake, right? This is water. It'll take a bucket here. And it'll pour the bucket of water over here. Did it expand products and services? No, it didn't create products and services. It didn't create wealth, true wealth, which is products and services. Homes, cars, your clothes. All of that has to be created by the free market, by a market system, by you, businesses, corporations, industry. You create the true wealth. Money is what we use to acquire that. When there's too much money chasing too few products, then of course the price is going to go up. So that's the thing. Why do you think like Gucci and Prada cost so much money? Because they don't make a lot of it, right? They purposely don't make a lot of it, so it's rarer and it's more expensive because there's more demand for it. Point is, we need to get back to productivity. We need to expand the lake so that when there is money, there's plenty of products and services that we can buy. There's competition, prices are low. And of course, they're giving you a smile when you go into their store, right? Because they want your business, because somebody else is getting it, because there's just a lot of choice. We need more choice. We need more productivity. Too much money in the market is just too many dollars chasing too few goods.
And when that happens, then you're decreasing the value of what you're chasing, right? So if you're flooding something with an increased supply, then the price is ultimately going to be cheapened in a way, right? So hyperinflation in Venezuela and Argentina, a lot in South America right now, and really all across the world. But also one of the things that we kind of have to also consider is not only do we have increased money supply circulating, right, more than ever before, but we also have increased spending by the government. So we have more money circulating, and our national debt also continues to grow year after year, right? And so right now, our federal government, we technically, as taxpayers, our government is in debt over $30 trillion. Over $30 trillion. How much of that is also interest? Is over $3 trillion of interest, right? And so this is money that we're spending that we don't have. And eventually, it has to get paid, right? Eventually. Just like if we, if your family had a credit card bill that year after year for 20 years, you keep increasing. The bank's not going to, the bank is not going to increase your credit limit that much if all you're paying is the interest every year, right? And that's what we're doing as a country. And eventually, how are we going to pay for that, right?
The worst part about it too, Kevin, is that the government is creating such a massive debt and having to pay the interest on that debt. How much was it?
Over $3 trillion.
$3 trillion in just, paying the interest on the debt. That means it has less to provide for the things we're going to need.
So you're saying the tax dollars that we pay every year, less and less is actually going to what they're promising on spending it on. because they're paying more on interest of our tax dollars. So we're literally paying more and getting less.
And of
even
course,
our
they
tax
keep
dollars.
increasing taxes. So, and when they do that, think about this. Let's say just half this room works and half the room doesn't, or creates products and services, or is industry, or corporations, or businesses, or the working class. And the other half, of course, are dependent on government. What you do when you increase massive amount of taxes, you take from the productive capacities of our society, and then you give it to the non-productive capacities of societies. It sounds kind of cold, but in reality, what is happening in the economy is that you are burning true wealth, and then of course, sustaining non-work. That's not a desirable situation also in a society. What you want is to make sure that you are taking enough from the working class, those who are productive, taking care of those who are truly dependent, but of course providing the kind of services that government was actually created to provide, which is law enforcement, courts, the military, things that we can't do as individuals.
Yeah, and one thing we've seen, just to kind of close this piece out, over the last 20, 30 years, we've obviously increased our spending year after year, all across the board, right? As a country, we've spent more. Things have gotten more expensive. Taxes have increased. Taxes recently kind of came down a little bit. But the problem is we're increasing taxes, but we're also increasing spending. So what we're doing is we're trying to say, let's get more revenue. The government is saying, let's get more revenue. But then they're spending more than they're getting even still, right? Instead of trying to tighten the belt and say, okay, if we're going to increase taxes, it's because we're also going to decrease spending to try to balance this out. But none of that is happening.
And the worst part about the spending too, that it usually, like I was saying, goes to the politically connected, or it gives exemptions to the favored, to los conectados. And what that does is create an unfair advantage for those who are politically connected to the administration, and it creates monopolies. It shuts out competition. You are now having to spend more to stay in business because the government has favored somebody else. It's picking winners and losers. That's cronyism. It happens a lot, especially in the auto sector with electric cars, where they favor electric cars over, gas-running cars. This kind of meddling by the government distorts prices, but also shuts out competition and innovation as well. These things should happen naturally. We're going to move to maybe electric cars or hydrogen cars sooner or later. The market will get us there. The market will provide the products and services that we need. But when the government gets involved, again, it just distorts market prices.
Yeah. So we only have a few minutes left, and we want to make sure that we close out. So I think we covered the topic of inflation, the topic of spending, kind of where we are as an economy, right? And how the past 20 years of reckless spending, but also recently, the past few years specifically, with all the different bills that have been passed, the $1 trillion bills have really contributed to a lot of this, as well as the restricting of whether it's energy exploration, how that's, only worsened the situation that we're in, and restricting housing supply, for example, that you see in the packet, like zoning laws and various things of that nature that make it more difficult to build a house or to build somewhere.
And this is insidious right here, what Kevin is talking about. This is the government changing your behavior, creating perverse incentives by making you purchase this or that, or not be able to purchase this or that because of regulations, statutes, or by imposing more taxes or surcharges on certain products but not on others. This is the government taking more control over your lives, taking control of healthcare, taking control of the market, usurping the role of the market in a very real way. And folks, this is the if you forget everything else, remember this: as the power, control, and money grows in government, there is a proportionate diminishment of your money, a diminishment of your control that you have over your life, and a diminishment of the power that you have over the decisions that you can make. Government is changing your behavior, and that's a scary thing. We're ceding them that control. We're ceding them that power every time we allow them to pass another law, another statute, another mandate, another tax hike, another regulation. They're controlling our lives more and more, and we're letting them with our eyes wide open. We need to stop that.
I guess I'll just, on a similar note, I'll close my piece just by saying on what Daniel was just talking about. My family is from Colombia. They came here in the 80s, and I still have a lot of family there. For those that have been paying attention to the elections, Colombia elected its first ever socialist president in history. That is a very big deal. It's someone who has promised to increase the role of the government across everyone's lives, not just education, but everything. You know, people who may have too much land, quote unquote, if they own too much land, then they're going to be taxed a lot more. This gentleman, the president-elect, has promised not to expropriate any land, has promised not to be another Chavez or Maduro, even though we know that he himself was a long admirer of Chavez and is a fan of Maduro and is friendly. So hopefully, keep Colombia in your thoughts and prayers, obviously. But one of the things, to Daniel's point, is just the increased role in everybody's lives. A lot of people are frustrated, especially in Latin America. The institutions are, it's fragile. There's a lot of holes and cracks in the foundations. There's a lot of just natural cronyism, corruption, un cortecito por encima, like their kickbacks, 10% of, I'll do this for you, and kind of how, in a lot of places, it's how it operates, and we're lucky to live in a country where we do have strong institutions. But that's not to say that they are, free from any sort of potential threats to our institutions like this. In Colombia, this gentleman has promised to increase the government's role, and at the same time complaining about how the government is corrupt. So on the one hand, you have people saying that the government is corrupt, and then on the other hand, them saying that the solution is, let me control this. Let me make sure that the corruption is stopped. I'm going to increase our power so that there's no more corruption. So what essentially you're doing is you're doubling down and you're growing the power of what is corrupt. So what I hope to say is hopefully that doesn't happen here in this country, and that we all have our eyes open to possible threats of that.
Yeah, and Kevin is Colombiano, Cesar, another team member, Colombiano. There are some dark days ahead for Colombia, because I can tell you what's going to happen in Colombia. It's predictable. It happened in Venezuela, it happened in Cuba, it happened in Bolivia, it's happening in Chile right now, está pasando en Ecuador. They're voting for socialists. And basically what they're going to do, he says he's not going to expropriate, but he's going to get there. He's going to get there because he's going to, of course, increase the printing of money. He's going to increase spending. He's going to tax more. He's going to regulate more, impose more employer mandates. He's going to do a war on energy because they want to go to green energy, they're saying. That's how they get a lot of folks. He wants to bring about equity. Equity, just so you know, is a buzzword for I'm taking money from the wealthy and I'm going to live well off of it. And so what's going to happen that, of course, all of these issues affect productivity. So productivity is going to go down. Prices are going to go down. So they're going to put price controls. When price controls come in, then, of course, you're going to get long lines. You're going to get scarcity. You're going to get the black market. And then they're going to say, well, see, these are these greedy corporate business owners. So they're going to double down. We need more socialism. So they're going to go now to expropriation to force them to create more products. But you've taken out the incentive of profit. People are not producing anymore because they're not getting profit. They're not getting paid. The government has run out of money because they printed too much and they devalued it. And you created long lines of scarcity and there's nothing. So more socialism, fueling the inflation, fueling the scarcity, the poverty. And what did he create? Equality of misery and poverty and scarcity. It happens every time with socialism, and it's going to happen to Colombia. Desafortunadamente, I feel for you guys, and I'll pray for you guys.
Wrap it up on that high note.
Yeah, on the high note.
Sorry.
First of all, thank you to Kevin, and thank you for Daniel for being up here. We've been going around the country and having these conversations, and we're going to continue to do that. But I want to do something in a minute here with Eddie and his team real quick. But I wanted to lead you to this. So if you guys would just take this out for just a second. You have to take it out of the packet. Just look at it. Take a picture of it. Get onto our action center. There's what we call it's a petition, basically saying that you want an answer. You want a solution to inflation, right? You want things to change. We need you to be a part of this conversation. One of the promises that we made when we started doing Soluciones con Libre was that we were going to give everybody an opportunity to be involved, to get involved, be a part of the solution, right? This is how you do it. Unfortunately, there's not a bill. There's not one bill out there that can change all of this. But our voices raised in the right way at the right time can make a real difference. This is one of those times. Get over here and when it says join the conversation, we need you to join the conversation. We need you to be a part of it. There are legislators choosing the right people, choosing what we call policy champions, people who actually fight for the good of America, right? We can do that. We can do those things. We need you to be a part of it. We want to thank you guys because you guys have taken out of your time, and all of those people that are watching me right now on Zoom, thank you so much to all of our staff and to all of our the folks that have been joining us at Soluciones. But I did want to say a special thank you to a few people that are in the room right now. So if you are a Nevada volunteer for Libre or for AFP, whoever you are, you're in the room, you're volunteering, you're wearing one of those blue shirts or white shirts, I want you guys to stand up for just a minute.
You're amazing.
Round of applause to them, man. Eddie, come on up here, man. So I want to introduce you to somebody. This is Eddie Diaz. You all know him, obviously, because you're here because he asked you to come. Eddie has been awesome. He's been working with us for a long, long time. I want you guys to go and talk to Eddie. If you don't know him, talk to Eddie and his team because this is how you get involved in Nevada, is through this guy right here. And we appreciate the hard work that he's done. Eddie, I'll let you go take it from here.
Awesome. Can you please help me give a round of applause? Big Las Vegas. Beautiful round of applause. Daniel Garza, the president of the LIBRE Initiative. Our executive director, David Velasquez. Kevin Hernandez, right over here. Our political strategist. Thank you. We also have more people who came from LIBRE headquarters. We have our comms director, Wadi Gaitán. Where you at? He's probably upset at me because I didn't give him a special share tonight. Public Affairs Director, you all know him, Cesar Grajales. We have our Institute Director, Yvette La Prima Diaz. And then I want to give a big shout out to somebody because one person came up to me today and she was telling me, Eddie, I just want to tell you, I feel so proud of the work that you guys are doing. You guys have been coming in super amazing ways. Like, I remember when you first started over 6 years ago, local mom and pop shops, Peruvian restaurant, that's where we met. And she's like, how you've grown to what you guys have and are doing and this beautiful community that you guys are creating. She was telling me just how proud. Anita, thank you for those beautiful comments. And a lot of it has to do with our event coordinator. I don't know if I said that, the correct title for Kennedy?
He's our
National Campaign Director, but he's been helping me with everything that you guys see, balloons, this beautiful backdrop, the awesome stuff that we project. Kennedy, his role just new, so that's why I didn't know the title, because he just started this new role. But he's been amazing. Please, big round of applause to my pal, Kennedy LaFave. All right, so guys, the conversations does not end here tonight. One of the reasons that I love this organization and love being part of this organization was because it told me that my voice mattered. I'm originally from San Diego, California. That's where I grew up. My family was more invested in listening to politics in Mexico because they thought that the United States had it done. They knew how to do it. We didn't have to worry about casting a vote, looking into policy because the United States had it down. Boy, was I wrong. It just took me to move from a big government state to a more, limited government state where Daniel's from Texas, to kind of open my eyes and made me get involved. Libre gave me a platform. Libre told me, hey, your voice mattered. And I'm telling you here tonight, your voice matters. And just like Libre gave me a lot of opportunities for me to take action, meet my representative, have my voice raised and heard, join a lot of people in the community to fight for issues that affect our community. That's what we want to do with you guys here tonight. This does not end. We still have a lot of activities. I also want to give a big shout out because last Saturday, we were at Mariana's Supermarkets talking about this same issue. And we were talking to people who are suffering because of this inflation, who are making those big sacrifices because gas has gone up, like we heard, going to the grocery, prices have gone up. And we were there trying to give them a hand and talk to them. We were doing a lot of testimonies. We had people like David, Rosemary, who were helping me lead those conversations. And this is a really important issue to our community. So we're not going to stop. We're going to continue. And we want you guys to get involved. Join us. Be part of this movement. As you heard tonight, it's not just us here sitting in these chairs, in this room. We have people in Orlando. We had people in McAllen, in Virginia, New Mexico, Arizona, sitting like you are here tonight, wanting to make a difference. So be part of this movement. I encourage everybody here to be part of this movement. So hopefully you guys, stay in touch. We're going to have a lot more activities coming up. And before I turn in the microphone, I want to give a big shout out to somebody special who made this event possible. He unfortunately could not make it here tonight, and he's really bummed out and devastated that he cannot be here because he put in a lot of work. And he also managed and coordinated a lot of the volunteers that are here tonight to make this event possible, to make the transition while checking in possible, putting up all these great decorations up. And I just want to give him a big shout out. He's our community engagement director, Daniel Pallet. I know he's here, but I know somebody's recording it and it's going to show it to him. So if you could please, round of applause for my good pal, Daniel Pallet. Awesome. And then one big shout out, because last Saturday, I was just mentioning, we had a lot of volunteers having these conversations. If you joined us last Saturday, can you please stand up so we can give you a big round of applause? If you volunteered with us last Saturday at our True Cost event, talking to folks about the wasteful Washington spending, how we're paying more and getting less. Thank you guys. All of this is possible because of you guys. All right, Daniel Pallet and myself, we can't do it all if it wasn't for you. So please join us. And now, I know a lot of you guys are hungry. I know David and Daniel are hungry. So this is what's going to happen, all right? We have volunteers who are going to, tell your table when it's time for you guys to go line up. We have like a buffet style. We got salad. We have gourmet pizza out there ready for you guys. So once the volunteer comes to your table and tells you can get up and go serve, please, do so. Probably we still have this room for a lot more minutes. I know the guys here from LIBRE are going to be here. We want to get to know you guys. All right, so feel free to also reach out to us, have a conversation. Any question you didn't ask, if you want to ask David, Kevin, or Daniel, please feel free to do so. And thank you, everybody. I hope you guys enjoy dinner. Gracias totales.